was giving where he was just talking about purpose and God and all of that. And those words are coming out. And to quote Moyatu, hard work, hard work. And so in the context of that, when I think about what we do at AWDF USA, we are doing hard work, and we are doing, the work that we do is purpose driven. One of the things that has become very big for us at AWDF USA is this idea of amplifying the voices of African women and girls in the diaspora, particularly, but of course, extending to the continent and everywhere. And so, you know, just gathering in this space is to be able to bring life, bring purpose, just bring a reminder and bring solidarity and allyship, and stand in partnership, you know, to really shift narratives, to really shift stories, to really equip each other, to empower each other, to also inspire and engage each other, to really bring out the giftings that we all have, the potential that is innate inside of us, to nurture them, to harness them, to unleash them, and to thrive, and to really let the world know that what they say about who we are as Black people, about who we are as African women, as Black women, is not what they need to be hearing. And so we are here to shift those narratives and to just show up being whole women, bringing our whole selves to everything. And that is what we are on the journey of doing at AWDF USA. And to be able to do that in community, rooted in a strong and healthy foundation of sisterhood, is exactly what we are embodying and reflecting here. So I will leave the rest to Auntie Abby.
Thank you, Mommy.
Oh, well, thank you. You know, there's not much more else to say. You know, we live in a world where frequently what gets valued is things that look like large, grand gestures. And so unless you take part in it and open yourself to it, there's, it's hard to explain how valuable something like this is. Of course, ideally, we would like to be sitting on somebody's sofa, on somebody's floor, chilling with a communal glass of wine rather than individual cups of tea. But the truth of the matter is also that were it not for this moment, we would not have strategically thought of expanding something that we do once or twice a year to the regularity with which we're doing this. So we've seized the moment, and in seizing the moment, we've learned something valuable about what we can do for ourselves. And, you know, Moyatu and Ma may have heard this story, but I don't think you have, so I'll tell it. Because it was something simple like this at Rutgers that changed the experience of being a Black woman at Rutgers for me. Many of you might have heard her name, the wonderful feminist, Black feminist historian, Deborah Gray White. She wrote, her most famous book is the book named Aren't I a Woman? But she's one of the groundbreaking historians of African-American women's life slavery. And she came to Rutgers, it's been, you know, almost 30 years now. I was already there. I remember I had got tenure, it was the year after I got tenure. So I'd returned, I'd been on leave the year I got tenure. And I returned and was living in New York. I had an apartment in New York. I was just moving in. So it was about June or something. I'd come from LA at the end of the semester. I hadn't yet unpacked my boxes. It was the beginning of the summer. And it was, was early May, because the Rutgers semester was just ending. And so I'm in this apartment. Very few people know I'm there. My things from LA are still in boxes because I've been on leave in LA for 2 years. And the phone goes. And I answer the phone. And this was in those days when we still had regular landline phones and cell phones. Cell phones were rare, and I don't think I even owned one. I answer the phone, and it's this voice says, "Hello, is this Abena?" I said, "Yes." She said, "This is Deborah Gray White." And of course, I sort of start, I'm by myself in my apartment, but I kind of sit up straighter because, I mean, this is a big woman. What is she doing calling me? She's only just come, but her arrival at Rutgers was big noise that she chose her. So I said, "Oh, wow." She'd been there just under a year. She'd arrived when I was on leave. So I said, "Oh, hello, how wonderful." And then she said, "Oh, I'm just calling you to see if you're free to come for a meeting." And I thought, oh. So I said, "Yes." And she burst out laughing. And she said, "No, I don't mean that kind of meeting." She said, "I know we haven't met before, and I know what they do to us Black women is always put us on committees. This is not a committee meeting. This is an antidote to committee meetings." And then she said, "I came to Rutgers because I heard that it was one of the few places in a major research institution where there were a number of Black women. Your name was called, Cheryl Walls was called, Renee Larry's name was called. I've heard all these names." She said, "I have been here a year. I have hardly met any of you, and I want to do something about it." I said, "Please tell me. I've just got back from LA. What do you want?" She proceeds to give me her address. At the time, she was married to some hotshot AT&T mogul. The marriage has since broken up, and she had a divorce party like no other. But she, living out in the woods in somewhere, horse country, New Jersey, she invited all of us to her house. She said, "You know what? Just bring a dish, bring something to drink, bring something. If you can't bring anything, bring yourself. I just need us to be together." And she collected every Black woman she could find at Rutgers. And we all went to her house just to hang out. We just chilled. And about an hour or two in, when she thought we'd met our peak, at that point we go round and say who we are, say what has happened to us that year, anything we want prayer for, anything we're celebrating. You know, I got tenure, my mama had a baby, whatever. Just to break the ice and get to know who we are. And then we continue eating. That was, well, I know 89, so that's been what, 30 years? 30 years. 30 years. Deborah Gray White can no longer leave New Brunswick at the end of the summer without having said that. We start asking her immediately after spring break, when is our get together? One year, she got a fellowship in DC. And at the time, her daughter was married and had just moved. So she sent out this notice just before the week of exams saying, "I'm on leave next year, so I'm just letting you know I'm going away before graduation. Bye, you all. Have a good summer." The protests she got, we all wrote back and said, "You can't do this to us." And she had to stay an extra week so that she could have the get together. That is to say, we learn to appreciate, even though it's only once a year, having once a year when we get together as Black women in this strange space. It has since spread to not just Rutgers, but Princeton and NYU. It's spread to sort of those of us in the tri-state area. But we value it, we treasure it, we look for it. We know we're going to see each other. We don't actually plan anything. We don't do anything. We don't say, you know, such and such is coming, let's all do. No, we know that this is our safe space just to hug each other, catch up with each other, celebrate, you know, be mad, whatever. And it's really wonderful. And so I really want to thank you for offering this invitation and for accepting it, because this, it seems and it seems simple, but it's the kind of thing which a decade from now we'll realize how much it has kept our sanity in troubled times, and that the connections and that having safe space is an underestimated treasure. So AWDF, as you all know, has wonderful missions and things to do and the kinds of things we talk about. But this hangout is just that. It's a self-care hangout. If there are important things to talk about, there are important things we do, and there are important things we will do, including today. But I just want to stress that the most important thing about it is that we just take the time to catch up with each other and share and say what we need and what we want. And nothing more ambitious than that need be necessary. Now, of course, if we want to plan a revolution, we can do that too. It's not obligatory.
Are you going?
Oh, somebody's on. Thank you so much, Auntie Abby. Let me, if you're on, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself, or I will mute you. Let me just mute all for now. And, okay. So Auntie Abby, the words that came to my mind as you spoke was just even just a welcome to our virtual house right now. Welcome to our, let me unmute you. Welcome to our virtual house, Saturday today. But those are the words that came to mind for me as you spoke. And this is our safe space. And again, today, you know, we just really wanted to catch up. And given that we are not too many on the call today, I think we'll just do a round introductions, just let us know your name, where you're currently located, your country of origin, a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into small groups just to check in. Right, this is quite informal today. So I will, again, I'm gonna unmute so that whoever wants to start can start. And then if you're not speaking, just, you know, unmute yourself as well. So maybe we'll go around. Bethel, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly as well. So if you wanna mute yourself and just start. Where you are, how you're doing. Just welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Batel, and I am currently in Claremont, California. So that's in Southern California, a very small, predominantly white, elderly town. We know how it goes. And I am from Ethiopia, but I grew up between different countries in Southern Africa, and my family currently lives in Ghana. Yeah, and I graduated in May. Valerie Otieno, who's also on this call, is a very, very, very good friend of mine. And it's very good to see you all. It brings me a lot of joy to be able to share this virtual space with fellow African women, with my sisters. I totally hear what you said in terms of like, this is an underestimated pleasure, for sure. So thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Dear Dr. Adra, you're next. If you're unmuted, yes.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Adra Duker. I'm based in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm Ghanaian. And so my background is actually sociology and public health. I'm also a family physician. So yes, definitely, I really treasure having, you know, time to connect with my fellow African sisters. And actually, before social media, me and you know, some of my fellow girlfriends of African descent, we actually would have like a you know, like a meetup every few months, and you know, just kind of like we would have food and wine, and we'd even do book clubs. And so yes, definitely such an important important opportunity to share space and just kind of connect and keep up with one another, as there's so much going on in the world today, trying to get to, or to adjust to this new normal, within this COVID-19 pandemic. So yeah, so it's definitely been a rough time for, I'm sure, many of us. So good to be here.
Yeah. Thank you, Aja. I'm gonna go to Priscilla, but I know Mommy called you another name, so I need to know.
It's nah.
Nah, okay.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hello, Nah.
well, Mommy calls me Na, and I've known her since what, 2020?
God. Yeah, 2010, 2011, yeah.
Goodness. Yeah, a decade between us. And she's the reason why I'm here. And she actually offered me my first job out, like, after I graduated, and yeah, like I wouldn't have been able to like make my rent without her. And just anyway, so that's my sister for life. But so I live in California. I actually live in Diamond Bar, Bethel, which is like 12 minutes away from Claremont. Yeah, wow.
Exchange.
Yeah, I'll give you my number.
Yeah.
And what else? My background is in law, and yeah, just this is such a refreshing space to be in, to just have no agenda outside of just being in each other's company. It's very refreshing.
Now it's studying to take the bar exam, just so you know. So send some love to her.
We're sending you some prayers and some good energy.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is Gbemi. Again, if I'm pronouncing everyone, just let me know.
I mean, that's the best I've heard outside of like family members.
Thank you.
It's usually Dimi, anyways.
Oh gosh.
But my name is Gbemi Daniel, and I am from Nigeria originally. I live in Rancho Cucamonga, California, which is in the vicinity. So I'm excited to see other sisters in the area. I am an internal medicine physician. I just started a new job 2 weeks ago now. My first job out of training as an assistant professor at a medical school. And yeah, I'm grateful for this space. I think the timing is, it's just, the timing is perfect. So just thank you all for organizing this and allowing us to have a space to just be ourselves and to share and grow in sisterhood.
Thank you and welcome. All right, Claire.
Hi everyone. I'm Claire. I'm the communications fellow for the AfriWomen Development Fund, and I am from Kenya and England. But currently, I'm studying in Amsterdam, where I'm doing a degree in liberal arts. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to being here with you all. I have someone who's also in the video listening in. You're very impressive. He's also, I suppose, if there's a story that I have about sisterhood and I suppose like gathering in a place of like safety for like Black women, it would be like when I first arrived at the school. Luna was one of my friends who very purposefully sought me out to be like, can we please have dinner? And this was just kind of like a standard thing for like all the Black girls at our university.
There's not that many.
We're very few, but so just like creating those spaces I think is so important, which is why Luna is cool here today as well, like listening in and
learning.
So I'm very excited to be talking to you all, and I'm excited to be here.
And Claire, where are you now, actually?
So I did
made it out?
back to my apartment in Amsterdam, after 3 corona tests, and they didn't even ask for them at the airport. So they didn't even, so when I was flying, they didn't even ask for them, even though they said it was a requirement. They didn't even ask for them at the airport. So Nairobi, Nairobi Airport, Valerie. I can imagine you know about these experiences as well. But we're here now, so that's what I'm grateful for.
Good. I'm glad you made it out on time. All right. Inde, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing. Yes. Inde Kamara.
Yeah.
Yesin. Okay.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Just like Priscilla, I'm also here because of Mom. I'm Yasin. I'm from the Gambia originally, but I am in Montreal, Canada right now. I go to McGill and I'm going to my final year at McGill, physiology. That is all about me for now. Yeah, and I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Mom, for this privilege, I can say, to be among you great women. I have a lot to learn from you guys, hopefully.
All right. Welcome, Yasin. Martha.
Hi. My name is Martha, and I'm a Resource Mobilization and Fundraising Fellow at AWDF. I'm currently in Paris, France, and I'm pursuing my master's degree in economics and business. And yeah, my background is finance and investments. And I think that I'm very, very excited to be here. And as Class said, I think over here, we are not that much like the Black people aren't that much like in my school, but we try to hang out often, and that marks how important this event is for us to link up, especially in times like these. So I'm very excited to be here and to be able to meet new sisters. Yeah.
Thanks, Martha. Valerie. And I'll say just a shout out to Valerie, who really planned this event as well. So shout out to you, Valerie, and thank you for all your hard work.
Hi, I'm Valerie Otieno. I'm originally from Nairobi, Kenya. Currently, it's complicated in transit. I'm highly privileged to be back home right now, which is Nairobi, and it's really been, lovely working and just being home. And I keep thinking I'm in a mind warp because there's a whole different structure of dealing with COVID. When I was in the US, and here in Kenya, it's almost like it doesn't exist. So I'm still trying to balance what 2020 is. I'm an events fellow at AWDF, and it's just really lovely, seeing some of my personal friends here, that intergenerational connection, and just seeing the whole globe somewhat represented in terms of Africa, in Canada, the US, and the continent. It's 9 p.m., almost 9 p.m. here. So, that globalization and, just connectivity that in some ways is one of the very few positive aspects of COVID, and just being able to communicate with all of you. Yeah, pleasure.
Thank you, Valerie. And Ngozi.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi,
welcome.
Thank you. My name is Ngozi Cole from Freetown, Sierra Leone. And I'm just happy to be here. There's some faces here I know and miss, Moyatu and Mame. And I'm happy to just connect with new sisters, new friends. I think this is very needed, especially today. With the news of our Black superhero, passing. So I'm just happy to connect with everyone here, and I hope this is enriching and fulfilling as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Ngozi. I'll go to Moyatu.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Ngozi. Good to see you. I don't miss you now. Maybe COVID don't have that time.
Please don't sell us, so I beg. Wait to be that.
Ngozi is my Sierra Leonean sister. It's good to see her face. Good to see everybody. I'm Moyatu. I sit on the AWDF USA board. I'm based in New Jersey, and I'm Sierra Leonean American. Just a pleasure to be here. Really looking forward to connecting. Adjoa, it's good to see you. Auntie Abby, everybody, just lovely to see. Claire, just lovely to be here. It's a nice, soul-filling time. I just finished dropping off my mom, and I wouldn't spend the Saturday any other way than being in the presence of other Black sisters, especially during these unprecedented times. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Hi, Mayatu. Cynthia, are you on? Cynthia? Welcome.
Hi, I'm here. Yeah, let me try to put my video on. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm on the road. I'm not sure if you guys can see me.
Yes, we can.
My mask on and all that. Yeah. All right. Yes, I'm running errands, but I couldn't mix this. Again, my name is Cynthia Amo. I'm currently part of the board for finance side. My background is in accounting. What else? Finance, business administration. Yes, but currently I'm really focusing on system implementation. You know, innovation is the big thing now, so that's what I'm focusing on. But today I'm so glad that we can all come together and just see all our lovely faces, you know, with everything going on around. It's also really good that we can take time and connect with one another. So yes, and I'm haircut. I'm loving it.
Moyatu, I think that was.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I have to say, in times of sort of difficulty, one thing I can say is that Cynthia has been growing her business in times of difficulty. And I'm really looking forward to learning more about how you're doing it as well, because we're seeing AfriKinky is now a brand that she owns that's on the shelves in stores, right? At a time like this, people are sort of shrinking, right? And she's growing, and it's just a blessing to see that happen as well. So thank you for continuing that work, Cynthia.
Good to see you, Cynthia.
Not to mention the dokno and the chinam and the things.
You know, I'm still waiting for my food.
Mommy, you missed the dokno update on WhatsApp. I didn't put on Facebook this week, but I had it on WhatsApp.
Cynthia have her yummy food to post.
Maybe the next hangout will be showing like food story.
Don't do that. That's maybe. Don't do that. Don't do it.
Oh, thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Next up is Dorica. If you can hear us. Thank you.
Oh, there you
yes,
there you are. Hi.
My name is Dorica Sydney Mkuchu. I'm currently based in North Tanzania. And can you hear me?
Yes,
yes.
All right. Yes, I'm currently working as a project coordinator from Young Women Christian Association of Tanzania. And I'm so grateful to be part of this space. For me, it means a lot that to share a space with great people, from great women from all over the world. So to me, wherever I get a chance or opportunity to have a safe space like this one, I really like to join and to see what other people experience in terms of going through this difficult time. It's a bit different for me in Tanzania when it COVID-19 and everything. So I'd like really to hear what other women experience from all over the world. So I'm grateful to be part of this hangout.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Chidi.
Hello, good evening, everyone. So sorry. I'm hiding somewhere in the toilet, in the salon. I'm trying to get my locks done, and it's very noisy, and I don't want here to be noisy. So please,
no worries.
I'm hiding.
We want to see your face for a second, just a second.
Regardless of where you are.
Okay,
yeah, regardless.
This is your space.
Love it.
There you go.
Looks good.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Chidi Cold Sweat, and I currently run an organization called Donors for Africa. And what we do is pretty much strengthen the capacity of innovative young nonprofits, social enterprises to access funds, to build their capacity to run sustainable organizations. Because one of the major challenges we have locally is that, I mean, visions rise and fall, organizations rise and fall. 1 minute someone is leading change in FGM, and tomorrow they are no longer there because of institutional challenges. So our organization has the vision to strengthen more nonprofits, to access funds, to get the knowledge they need to grow those social enterprises. And I mean, the result so far has been really, really amazing. And Mame has been instrumental to all the support she has given to us every time we call on her. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited to connect with people. I made that my deliberate decision in 2020. I'm coming out of my shell. Hey, I am breaking. I'm running away from everything holding me back so that I can connect with more women and get to know other people in other parts of the world doing phenomenal things. So thank you so much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right, welcome, Chidi. Last on the list, last but not least, One. Hi. I think that's everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. My name is One Pusumane. I'm from Botswana, and I'm a current fellow with the AWDF. I work with Claire, Valerie, and Martha, and currently still in London trying to pack up my life because I have to start my PhD soon in Edinburgh. And yeah, I think for me, the AWDF, I enjoy working with the women and just learning a lot. And I think it's a privilege to just be surrounded by strong women who, are so passionate about the kind of work we're doing, trying to amplify our voices. And I think I find it an empowering space as a young woman who's also just passionate about gender activism. So it's very wonderful to see that, the organization is very forward about what the work they're doing and exclusively for women. And I think that, I just love it. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm trying to figure out a schedule so that I can still continue working with them, because I'm it's just an amazing space. Yeah. So that's me.
Thank you so much, One, and happy packing and moving.
Oh,
I know that's complicated.
It's not nice. I don't like folding clothes, so
just roll them and fold them in the bag, right?
Then I have to sit on the bag to close it. But thank you.
Thank you for coming. So I didn't get a chance to introduce myself. I'm Nana Ofaswama. I'm here in New Jersey as well. I am currently, after being out of college or grad school for 20 years, I decided to go back to school again. So from engineering to business, I've been in education for the last 10 years, and I'm actually getting my doctorate in education, looking at innovative technologies used in education. So, and I just came back from a sort of 2-day trip at the beach with my little niece and my cousin and her niece. It was really nice to have family time. We haven't seen each other. I realized my cousin, who lives 20 minutes away, we haven't seen him for 6 months, right? So we decided to just take a chance and just gather at the beach, which was really nice. So just coming back from that. So what we're gonna do now is just kind of break up into small groups. Yes?
I don't know if Auntie Abby introduced herself.
Actually, yes.
Even myself.
And you, yes, it's true. So, Auntie Abby.
Well, thank you. I do actually have something to say. I'm Abena Busia, one of the original board members of AWDF and AWDF USA in various roles. And I am from Ghana, raised in England, and then had my whole professional career at Rutgers University until 3 years ago when I became Ghana's ambassador to Brazil. So I'm here as ambassador to Brazil and the whole of South America. I don't know if I had done this the last time we met, but I made one of those big traumatic life decisions a few weeks ago and formally wrote to Rutgers to begin my retirement.
Auntie
40 years.
Oh my goodness.
I passed this wonderful golden handshake where they give you a year, what they call assigned to research, where they basically pay you to wrap up with your graduate students, give a few guest lectures, empty your office. So I officially start my year of research on January the 1st.
Oh,
and
wow.
prior, on January the 1st of 2022, I'll be Professor Emerita.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
On December the 1st of 2020, I'm going to be out of work. My news is that, of course, I am a political appointee, and there are elections in Ghana. So all 35 of us appointed by President Nana Akufo-Addo have now received our recall papers. We are all to be back in Ghana by the end of November, and we do not know what happens after that. You know, I'm being bold. I've made the decision that I will take myself to Ghana, but I will not pack my things.
Wow.
I won't say a formal goodbye for various reasons. Put it this way, we serve at the president's pleasure. But as you don't tell the country that you've left, basically the way it goes in the diplomatic world, the new ambassador hands in the letters of recall of the old ambassador. And so I have asked permission, because there are various things I want to do, to leave my luggage here. And if I don't get reappointed, I will simply come back in January to say my goodbyes and ship my stuff, whether to the States or I'm footloose and fancy free. I'm jobless and homeless. But you know, we will wait to see what the president does. There is a possibility that I will continue on, but I don't know. But I've decided I will wait until I do know, because this year has been such a blip that if I'm not reappointed, I'm going to come back and have a vacation before I ship my things out. So my last day in Brazil for the time being will be about the week of the 4th of November. The elections are on the 7th of December, and we will know after the 7th of January if I return. I mean, I would like to return because there's been so much left undone this year, but very few people know it yet. I'm telling you, my sisters, but yeah, I am among the 35 people that has been called home. We need to go campaign, make sure he wins again. So I'm not quite sure what next year looks like. I might be back. I might be in New Jersey. I might be back in Accra. I might be doing something else. I have no idea. But that's my news. This has been a good year, though.
Yeah.
A very good year.
Anyway, yeah.
Even under COVID-19, I've had my family with me. I've done a lot of spiritual work, and I came across the work of Dr. Jason Fung, and so I have lost 20 pounds. That's my other.
Wow.
And significantly cut my diabetes medication in half because of it. So that's
just awesome. That is awesome.
I've become a missionary for this Canadian doctor. I think he's absolutely right, and that the treatment of type 2 diabetes is wrong. And that I did it through intermittent fasting. And within the space of 6 weeks, I lost 10 pounds and brought my blood sugar level down from 7.2 to 5.9.
Wow.
I read a book. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so that's my news. It's good to see you. I'm here until November. I hope to be back in the spring. But as I said, like everybody else, I serve at the pleasure of the president. So I'll either be back in the spring to work or back in the spring for a holiday of the places I didn't get to, hoping that the virus might have abated even in this country.
Right.
But, you know, meanwhile, we're home looking after ourselves.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, Auntie Abby. We're privileged to hear your news. And what I was thinking about was a comment that Chidi had said. Yeah, go ahead.
No, two quick things from what you said. Two things you said. One, thank you, Valerie, because although this is an informal space, they always take work. You know, Deborah Great White has to clean her house every time we come. It always takes work, and we thank you for keeping to it and planning and working on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valerie.
And the other thing is, if I could make a bid, a request for us to have a workshop about Afrikinky.
Yes, she's on the list for our discussion around entrepreneurship, because I really want to know how she did it. Right? Yes. I really would love to know at a time where businesses are shrinking.
Yeah.
Cynthia did it somehow, right? And so we'll be talking about that definitely before the year is up. All right, Mom. So the word that came to mind, Auntie Abby, as you were talking, was sort of 2020 is a bizarre year, but in a way it's forcing us, kind of between what Mommy said and Chidi said, was this thing of sort of being free and freedom and not letting things hold you back for where you want to go. And it goes back to Mommy's sort of call for a purpose-driven life, right? A purpose-driven existence. And I think it's forcing all of us to take a look at where we are, what we're doing, why we're doing it, on all levels. I think that, so thank you for those words from all of you, because that's, I think, what's going on for a lot of us this year as well. So Mommy, we'll go to you.
Yeah, just quickly, because I know we have to get them, but for me, I say that there is no more better backdrop to experience resilience than 2020. So 2020 is just a year of resilience. And for me, when I think of resilience, they are just challenges eclipsed by opportunities for growth, for transformation, and for progress. And, you know, I often think of that song. There's a Christian song like afflictions eclipsed by glory, right? That is what I look at 2020 to be like, and I sit in that moment. And just for me, you know, when I think of sisterhood, I have been experiencing sisterhood on so many levels. I think of my relationship with Auntie Abby, and you know, all of us, we call her Auntie Abby because that's what we call her. Like, even when we are in like professional settings, and I'm like, Auntie Abby, and I'm sure they are looking at me like, what is wrong with this African woman calling her Auntie Abby? But just experiencing sisterhood on so many levels. So I think of Auntie Abby and what she means personally to me, and how she holds all of us at AWDF. I watch how she, you know, in a very, very crafty way and diplomatic way, how she got me to like be where I am now. So I currently serve as the board chair of AWDF USA, taking after and taking over from Auntie Abby. And then I think of, you know, some of you on here from the Moremi space that I've known for so long. I think of my relationship with now, and even I think of like some new ones. Yesterday, I had a 2-hour conversation with Yasin. Just 2 hours. Just talk. There was no agenda, nothing. And I didn't know Yasin from anywhere, but you know, she was looking at something we're doing because she's a MasterCard scholar and I'm in that space. She was just checking things out, and she was like, oh, and she had the courage to write to me. So we're just laughing about it. She was like, when I was writing, I was literally shitting in my pants, like literally, you know, to use a very crass word. But I was like, don't worry about it. I have the same thing. So I was, Auntie Abby, she's the one I was saying that I was talking to somebody about you. She's the one I was talking to. So for me, at the end of the day, what I see is that I'm here to steward relationships, And the word that comes to me, which Chidi used, is about being intentional, about how you see people, how you are there. Sometimes you don't even have to say anything. It's just by showing up. I think of my relationship with Moyatu, and you know, she doesn't have to, you know, you just show up, you know. And so for every single person here, I'm just so grateful. I think of Nana, and I think of just reaching. Nana is family. She's like, we are related, right? And I think of reaching out to her, and you know, just how she just hold space. And then I think of all the fellows who are in this space. It just blows my mind, because sometimes I'm building courage and nurturing that, to be able to ask for things that we want. Sometimes we don't ask because we come up with all kinds of assumptions and stories in our head, and that prevents that. But I'm in a place to ask. I'm learning to ask for what we need, and then I'm learning to bring myself in a very vulnerable way and an authentic way. And I notice that when I show up that way, we give permission to others to also bring their full selves. And at the end of the day, my goal is to be a whole woman, bringing all of who I am to every experience. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mommy. And thanks to all. So what I want to do now, and just kind of like, is break everybody up into smaller groups and just talk about whatever you want to talk about. If you need guidance, I'll give you 2 questions. What are you experiencing now? And what's keeping you going? Right? What are you experiencing now? What's keeping you going? What's bringing you some level of joy in this time? So I'm just going to split everybody, just random splitting up, right? There's no rhyme or reason to this, but just really wanted you to be in a smaller groups with each other and just talk about what's going on with you. So I will probably give maybe 15. I know we're running a little bit short on time, but that's okay. If you're okay with staying, that's fine. Maybe give everybody sort of 15 minutes or so, or 10, I'll check in around 10 minutes, but give you 15 minutes just to talk. So we'll see you in a few. Okay. All right.
How are you splitting us up?
Yes, you'll see a notice coming up shortly.
Okay.
I'm going to come in myself.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm going to be
Hello.
out of room, so don't mind me. But okay. So how are you guys doing? It's a bizarre year. It sure is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It really is.
I can start. I think it's been a strange year because I've been getting a lot of like career progression. And so I went freelance as an independent consultant last year in August. And it was initially a very rocky road, but then as the months go by, it's become better. So it's been very interesting because we are in a pandemic and there's a lot going on. But I'm also kind of doing well on the side in my career. So it's been a roller coaster of emotions as well. And yeah, it's just like up and down, kind of on most days.
What do you think is helping your independent consulting work? And I may come to you for advice because I'm in this space of like transition as well again, right? But what do you think has made it work for you?
Yeah, I think networking has been huge because most of the leads I've gotten are from people who knew of my past work and who knew the organizations I worked for. And so it's just as you go to the next one, someone recommends you and refers you to someone else, and you just make those connections. And it's also just being open to possibilities. I've turned down a few, just making sure that you don't get spread too thin. Otherwise, it can get very overwhelming. But just making sure that I'm focusing on things that I feel like I can actually help and make an impact. But I would say networking has been very, very key for me. Yeah.
Now, Beto, how about you?
I'm doing, well this morning. just because this is like definitely the highlight of my weekend. But I can definitely relate to Ngozi, and also Ngozi, I love your head wrap. Just gonna put that out there. That's beautiful.
It was last minute, so thanks.
It does not look like last minute work at all.
No, it does not.
And, right? I can definitely say that I relate to Ngozi in the sense of like it being a roller coaster. So I graduated from my undergrad program in May. I realized that I didn't really talk about like what I'd studied, but I had studied environmental analysis and Africana studies, and still looking for paid work. It's easy to find, you know, volunteer work, unpaid work, obviously, and oftentimes that's the kind of work that aligns with my interests in social justice. So even when Auntie Abby was like, let's plan a revolution, I'm like, I'm here, I'm ready. I've been ready.
Yes.
But also looking into grad programs, just because it seems like being a student, even if it is mostly virtual, seems like a pretty smart decision right now. So I'm looking into some programs in Canada. So it was interesting. I was keeping an ear out for people who were saying they were studying at like McGill, Canada. But yeah, and then I guess what's keeping me going, that's an interesting question. I'm very grateful for my mental health right now. I'm grateful for my community, for my really nice housemates who are so generous and welcoming. And family support. My family's been very patient and encouraging. So that's very good. And how about you?
So I'll go a little bit. I'm currently, let's say 2 years ago, I got laid off from work, which was actually oddly a blessing. Because I was actually on my way back to school anyway, even though I could have done this program technically working, but it wouldn't have allowed me to be more expansive as I've become again. And I actually live with my sister and her children. One of them has special needs. So it's actually been perfect because she's a physician. She has to go to work. And unfortunately, she did get COVID from patients and stuff. So for a month, the girls didn't see her for a month. She was in the house, but they couldn't see her for a month. So I think it was this odd blessing that I'm around. And I actually, my classes were virtual last semester as well. And I'm in the process of doing my research. And it just worked out in an odd way. So it's been just like, it's been a tough one in terms of school because I'm trying to interview teachers about virtual augmented reality. And most teachers are in the space of like, are we virtual? Are we going to school? Are we open? So as much as summer is a good time to get teachers usually, it's like their mind share is not there. And so it's been a little hard to get as many as I wanted to. For all the work I put in, my advisor's like, oh, we can maybe deal with less. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep trying. Because for all the work I've put in the last 2 years, I don't want to just interview a handful. I want more. But again, I want to be also open to the possibility of also wanting to be done by the end of this year. So, but other than that, what's kept me going is just, my nieces, the older one can be tough, but there's just some moments of joy that she has where she's just super happy, or we're riding a scooter and she's out like both laughing and screaming and just having those moments of just being a kid again, right? Teaching them how to skateboard and like ride a bike and, just silly things like that. I'm like, let's go paint today. And just being around them is giving me a time to also take a step back as well. And one thing I started to do this year, which is funny, is just something I grew up with in Ghana, which is my dad had a telescope. So we would look at the planets in the sky, and literally I've been trying to get my nieces involved, and we were at the beach this weekend. It was a little clear, and I was like, look, there's Jupiter right there next to the moon, and they're like, oh. And so realizing that, we are on planet Earth, we're part of a larger universe, and we don't even know half of how it all works. But it's fascinating for us to look outside of humans, right? Just to see what's happening. And all the planetary motions that are happening this year are also quite unusual. And I'll leave it at that. So it's actually been fun. It's been fun to just kind of reconnect with other things that I've always been interested in again. So yeah.
What's your research on, if you don't mind?
So I'm looking at the diffusion of virtual and augmented reality into preschool to grade 12 education. So looking at teachers' experiences of adoption and integrating this technology into their practice. It's kind of, it's new technology, I know that, but I wanted to look at what the sort of early adopter teachers were going through. So it's a cross between my sort of engineering and technical background, my business, and looking at this from education perspective. So it's been—
Sounds really cool.
It's really, really fun. I've been like finding all these new technologies out there, and I've worked in tech before, and I've been out of tech for 10 years, and it's just been fun to reconnect with that. And there's some new technologies that are coming up that are fascinating, but also, again, we have to be careful. There's always a dark side to everything, because, you know, and so, but for me, my thinking right now is that as especially African women and Africans in general, we need to own the content that's going to be used for virtual and augmented reality for ourselves, because what's going to happen is someone's going to, I mean, at the end of the day, someone's going to come and create content for, let's say, education, and it may not be what we need. And so that's some of the discussion I'm starting to have with a few people is how do we create some content for our own children as they come up, right? If they have an opportunity to use this technology, how can you use it for them as well? But it's really interesting technology, especially when you put on the goggles and the headset and just being in somebody else's shoes. Like, it allows you to actually be in somebody else's shoes. And there's been a lot of work done around empathy building using this technology and the impact it can have. So it's been interesting to research. It's been interesting. Okay. Yeah. But if you know any teachers that are using virtual, let me know. I'm looking for more. I'm looking for more. Okay.
That does sound really interesting, and it also makes me think about like Afrofuturism and decolonization and like decolonizing education, you know, and like what challenges we're gonna face when it comes to these like diffusions or introductions of new technology within our education system back home, which is already so neo-colonial.
Right, right. I think it's a realization that everything is whitewashed around the world.
Yeah.
And
like our whole education system is saturated in like colonial education. It's ridiculous.
It is. Yeah. It is. But I'm gonna get Chidi. Are you there? I'm gonna get you in on the conversation. Just if you're still there. Oh, she may not be. I know she was getting her hair done. But yeah.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, hi Chidi.
Okay.
How are you doing? What are your thoughts as well? But yeah, we need to think about the future, and Betel, I think you're right. We need to start thinking about it now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Chidi?
Yes. So thank you all so much for sharing. So for me, this year, I think I'm done being Superwoman this year. So maybe because of like the circles of my immediate circles, right? And even the scope of work that I have to do. So most times you're showing up for organizations, you're supporting other people, and then you keep neglecting yourself. So I think for me with COVID-19, what it just did with lots of death, you know, especially back home, too many people were just dying, just keep hearing all this sad news every day. I think it just made me realize that life will go on with or without you. And all of a sudden, everything I used to put on hold in my life, I'm like, you know what, I'm so done, like, not anymore. So it's not like I don't care or love other people, but I've started becoming a bit more selfish with like my choices, the things that are important to me, delegating and letting other people take care of my kids. I don't have to be the one to do that. Like, I'm just trying to now think about me, and for the first time I'm thinking about, you know, pursuing my studies or furthering my education. You know, I'm finally I'm finally taking like active steps to apply for the Chevening scholarship. Like, I'm just beginning to think about me for the first time in a long while. So for me, that's been like my biggest wake-up call, right? I'm now buying myself things. I'm not waiting until some special day. You know, I'm just going a bit crazy, but I'm just enjoying feeling all the different emotions. Some days I feel like working. Some days you send me messages, I won't respond to you until I'm in the mood or I'm in that frame of mind. But I've just started taking my mental health, myself, a lot more seriously than I used to do before. So to me, that's like the one thing I'm really grateful for. I mean, sadly, COVID-19, but that has just hit me in the face like, if you die tomorrow, life goes on. So it's been like my most wake up call since this thing started. So
yeah,
yeah, I have to take that off my chest. So sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I think this year has been a wake-up call for humanity in general, and I know that not everybody's awake yet, but some people still want to be asleep, but that's okay. And Chidi, I was curious about, I know you're in the salon. How are the organizations you're supporting doing through this?
In fact, that's the most shocking thing. You know, we started like a pilot, like a test idea. So we tested it small, and the results have been amazing. Like a particular nonprofit we help just access $300,000. This is something they've never done before. You know, people are accessing funds, people are getting into fellowship programs. And I'm like, oh my God, and all this is happening. I mean, through the grace of God, through us, but to see all that they get to achieve, right? It all of a sudden makes you also begin to think, okay, so where am I in all this? I need to also find something to achieve for myself and for the organization I represent. So it's not, it's pushing me out of my comfort zone to now, like, as I'm sourcing for opportunities for them, I'm also now trying to be a bit more deliberate about speaking up and asking for things for myself and for my organization. And it's not been easy, because I guess every time you have to do something new, there's always that season of freaking out, but just finding the strength to just do something different, something I'm not used to, you know, market something I'm not used to, and see that people are actually saying yes. For me, it's been comforting. At the same time, it just makes you realize there's still so much work to be done, right? But I don't want to go into a savior mentality. You know, we will all save ourselves eventually. So I'm just taking it one day at a time right now. But it's been phenomenal, honestly. It has.
Yeah, I know this year has been shocking in many ways. I mean, on all levels, but I do think that some people, some are doing really well, in spite of all that's happening. And it's making us, and I appreciate you saying how you're trying to be more selfish, which is a great thing to to come to, right? Because my belief is, if we don't fill our baskets first, we can't help anybody else, right? If you're not full yourself, you can't give, and otherwise you'll go into the negative, and that's not healthy. That's not healthy. So yeah, no, it's been one of those years where you have to take a step back and say, you know, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Any thoughts on sort of how what are you thinking about for the future for all of you? What do you, at least we've heard a little bit, and actually, Chidi, I wanted to get a sense, what do you want to study? You talked about potentially going back to school, and then I'll come back to the rest of you.
Okay, so interestingly, my life has started taking an interesting turn. All of a sudden, I'm finding that, okay, so I got drafted into the African Youth Front on Coronavirus by the AU, and you know, I keep getting drafted into this leadership position. So all of a sudden, I'm beginning to find that probably this is something I was designed to do. I'm just becoming more tilted towards accountability for governance, leadership and policy. And as we're working on the SDGs, right, what are the policies? How are policies formulated? I'm beginning to get interested in those things. So what I'm looking to study is any course around, I'm still doing my research, but courses around accountability, governance, leadership, and then of course, policy design and policy implementation, which is like, for me, the most important part. So that's just pretty much what I've been like thinking of lately, right? On how to make that switch all of a sudden from SDGs to like governance and leadership. And I'm even looking to put together a conference this year. And I you know, someone mentioned intergenerational conversations. And for me, I've been having sleepless nights around, why do we have all these phenomenal women in leadership? I mean, the likes of Okonjo Iweala and so many of them. And then there's such a huge gap between that generation and like our generation and what we're achieving. Like, where are the young people? Where are the activists? We just sit behind our phones and we're like insulting government, but we're not doing anything. unlike that generation that would come out and scream and shout. I don't know if things have changed, but it's been like a burden. Like, I want to have that intergenerational conversation around leadership. So that's just what's been running around this my little head for now, you know.
Yeah, no, that's thank you for saying. I mean, that's definitely something that's been on our minds at AWDF USA, is how do we keep the intergenerational space going? Because you're right, and I don't know, I don't know what the answer is in terms of what's happening now. But maybe people have gotten very comfortable in what they're used to. I don't know. But yeah, it's like, I feel like it's time for a revolution. I'm not sure where it's going to start from, right? Because I do believe that the old systems are going to crumble down. At least what I'm seeing in the US, they're going to have to crumble down at some point.
Yeah, I also feel like we don't really have a choice, and I totally agree with you, Chidi. I just feel as though there's definitely a gap, and I think for the older generation, they feel as though for us, we just kind of like on social media, you know, hashtagging and making things go viral. And I think for us, we feel as though they have failed us. And so there's really a lot of space for conversation and healing and collaboration. And I think we just need to get over ourselves on both ends and find a common ground and just work together. But it's definitely a huge gap that I've seen.
Yeah, and it's funny that you just said that, because literally my niece told me that yesterday, that she felt that the older generation has failed, and she's only 11. She said, you guys have failed us, but look at the environment and look at all the stuff. And at the end of the day, there's this balance, right? Because my response to her was kind of like, well, you won't have what you have now if the other generations hadn't paved the way, good or bad, right? But I think that this discussion is real, even at her age, thinking about, well, you guys failed us. Look at the environment. Look what you did. Look at you, right? And it's how do we find that common ground to say, yes, we may have done things not so well. Maybe some things were good, but how do we kind of find this balance to move forward and kind of revolutionize what we have? But that's funny that you just said that.
I'm thinking we are also going to be the older generation, by the way.
Yes, no, I feel that already. I'm already part of that, you know, on you guys, right? But I'm going to actually have everybody back to the rooms. We are 1 minute left, but let's see what happens here if I do this. Everyone has a minute. Okay. All right. And I thought it'll wait for me to say I'm joining. Never mind. We'll have to see if everybody comes back. Okay. All right. Yeah, but it's been an interesting year. I think we've got a few more years of sort of shaking up the systems and structures around the world, I think. Yeah. And I think this is just the beginning.
Ever go back to the same?
No, I don't think it will. I don't think it would. I really don't. Yeah.
I don't think we should. I don't think we should.
Yeah.
What was before. This is definitely a time for change. And we see it happening in the continent as well as the diaspora. Yeah. And I wonder like how we can leverage the resources on all the ends to make that change, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's very complex. Very, very complex. But I think you're going back to Chidi's discussion, the policies needs to change as well. Starts with that. Yeah. Welcome back.
Okay, we're back.
All right. Okay, so thank you for spending a few minutes together, and just wanted to just roundtable just what some of the discussions were about, how people are doing, and just kind of what came up for you. So just any of the group members can just start to just share, just not going to formally go around, but just share what came up for you as you talked.
We talked a lot about just like various self-care practices that folks are, you know, employing and deploying in their lives at this time. Some of the things that came up, like Cynthia was saying, she just learned how to, she's learning how to play basketball, partly for fitness reasons. And you know, she said her children think she's playing with them. For her, it's more so a selfish game than anything. So that was, you know, just I think we all shared that. Mame talked about how she's been walking, just continuous with her walking practices of self-care, but also just like prayer and spending time and being intentional, spending time with God. And I shared a similar view just about just prayer and also this idea of pausing in this time and having deep intentional moments of pause. Valerie also expresses idea just of gratitude, right? Like how just sometimes we just have to take a step back and think of, okay, like things are going well for me. You know, there could be much worse happening, right? And just reflecting on what is working well and what is going well in our lives and what's happening. And so, yeah, we also talked about just this notion of how much change is happening as well for each of us and what that ultimately means for how that change is perceived and how sometimes people will show up to your old self and you're no longer there.
That's
and
right.
being able to, right? And sometimes also not feeling like you have to explain the change.
That's right.
You're
That's
gonna have
right.
to adjust to what's
Yeah.
happening,
Yeah.
and adjust. And so I thought that was really, really
Yeah.
powerful. I don't know if Mame or
Yeah. I mean, that was a point I was making, that, you know, sometimes people want to relate to you based on what they knew of you, and they don't want to connect to who you are being in the moment. And I think of like in scripture when they were like, is this not the carpenter's son? You know, like just looking at him like, is this not the carpenter's son? It's like, oh, it's just the same person that we know, right? And so really refusing the labels, refusing the boxes that people would want us to be in. And Moyatu talked about it from the perspective of, it's okay to change your mind. You can change your mind. And, you know, you don't have to explain to anybody. Just, you know, just be, you know. And for me, that has become very big for me, that I'm not going to let anybody put me in a certain box, but I will thrive and grow, you know, in a very healthy way as I need to. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing from your group. Any other group want to share? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Yasin.
For us, it was amazing. We discussed, is it Demi? Sorry. Yeah, spoke about why it's so important to let yourself be in the moment and just feel your emotions. If you feel like crying or you feel like you're not feeling great today, just accept it and know that that is how life is supposed to be. And life isn't supposed to be like, you can't be strong always. You cannot be showing up all the time. So there will be times that you have to step back and just be in the moment and be with yourself. And we also spoke about the demise of Chadwick Boseman, and how we all feel about it. It was shocking news for me personally, and knowing that he had cancer all this while and he's been struggling with it. I don't know how many people know about it, but I and most people that I know is complete surprised that he had cancer, and he was struggling with this for like 4 years, and now he just passed away. And why it's so important for us to be kind to people, because you don't know what someone else is struggling through, what they're going through, what are their struggles, what are their battles, how did they wake up. So being kind to people, even if you don't agree with them necessarily, or even if you're not the same, no matter where they come from, who they are, you know, what they have, just being kind because of that is who you are, not because of who they are or how they treat you. Um, and we have Auntie Abe with us. She was, I mean, obviously sharing her wisdom with us in all of these topics. And it was truly inspirational for me personally to learn from Priscilla as well, and Bemi and Auntie Abe. And I've been trying to process the entire emotion, the demise of Chadwick. So like sharing it with the group was so helpful for me actually. I needed to just let it out for some reason. So thank you guys for like listening to all I had to say. And yeah, I don't know if any of you want to add to that, if I forgot something.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, and I'm glad you got an opportunity to share with each other. And you're right that, you know, if someone is dealing with that for 4 years and still out there, you know, being the best that they can, it's humbling to remember that, right? It's very humbling. And any other groups? to share?
Yeah, so for our group, we were basically talking about what's keeping us going and what's happening with us. And for some of us, we've actually been grieving over how a lot of Black people, especially women, are going through lots of difficult situations, and it's just about time that some of us felt like we had to actually talk about it, because the more you discuss such issues, the more some of this grief and pain goes away. And so that's what actually is keeping some of us going to have open conversations about such difficult times. And what we've been actually looking forward to, some of us, we are changing jobs, some of us, we are looking forward to school reopening, and we are starting new jobs. So it's like you now have to cope with the new outdoor system where you are going to be outdoor when you've been indoor for such a long period of time. And for some of us, their main issue has been the COVID issue, where a country like Tanzania, they are still not running tests and all those kind of stuff. But then deep down in families, we have people who are having like, as in recording death of loved ones because of the COVID, but because the test is not being done, like it's a very confused situation, like a very, very confused one. So yeah, and we were just talking about the fact that, let's say if you come to the Western world, like in Europe or US or wherever, COVID tests and all those things are free. But then in Africa, you have to pay money to get tested. Like in Kenya, you have to pay about 10,000 shilling, which is like $100 to get a test done. In Ghana, you have to pay about 200 Ghana cedis, which is a bit under 40 euros to get a test done. And we are thinking that that's probably one of the main reasons why people may not even want to get tested. Not like they don't want to test, but then it's not a very fair situation. And we were also discussing the fact that, like, why can't you just go to your country and visit your family if you have a negative COVID test results? Because for some countries like Ghana and Kenya, when you go, you have to still be in quarantine for like 14 days in a specific hotel, which is like you're paying like $100 a night. And for the 14 days, you could have just stayed back home. And so these are some of the things we were discussing, and we are just hoping that as time passes by, all these things will work out fine. And some of us are looking at going back home in November and December. And so we just hope that things will be fine for everybody, and we just don't remain here.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And I think I'll share for our group, and anybody can come in as well. I know we had a lively discussion. I think that, you know, a few things that sort of echo what everyone has shared is really around this level of shifts that everyone's going through on a personal level, right? So some of us shared glimmers of hope and light. You know, in Ngozi, you were sharing about how your personal consulting, your independent consulting is growing. And that's, again, another light. So between you and Cynthia, I really want to learn about what you did and how you're doing. And we talked a little bit about sort of your how you've done it through networking and just building, continue to build. We also talked about, I know Bethel was sharing about how, you know, she's looking at new opportunities for schooling at this time where you may be able to do more virtual schools. So does this then open up a new realm of education, even if it's higher ed or for younger children? Is how can you now access new programs that you may have not been able to access just because now we can do some virtual schooling as well. I know that one thing that Chidi shared, which I think a lot of you are saying as well, is this sense of self-care and being a little bit more selfish. Finding time for yourself and saying, you know, today I don't feel so good, maybe we'll just take a break. And I'll respond when I have time and energy, and just being able to monitor that for yourself and not being apologetic about the shifts that you're making for yourself. And I think that's critical for all of us, to sort of think about how we're doing that and setting our boundaries and making sure we're taking care of ourselves first, and to fill your basket before you can give to other people. What we also talked about, which is interesting as well, was this is a time for change. So Auntie Abby, your revolution is needed. Wherever that's going to come from, we need the revolution. And there's a sense that the structures of the world right are going to be crumbling to some level and may take some time. But some structures are going to have to crumble for us to move forward. And I think that one thing we talked about, and it just clicked to me talking about Black Panther, was the sense of Afrofuturism and this intergenerational discussions that are needed, where some of the younger generation feel that the older generation have failed them, right? And I was just having a conversation with my niece yesterday, and she was like, you guys have failed us. Look at the environment, look what's happening, look at these systems, and it's sort of like we need to have these conversations more often so that we can really understand each other and come to some common ground of what the revolution is going to look like now in the future. And we were talking a little bit of Afrofuturism, what does the future of Africa look like and Africans look like? And how can we sort of bridge the generations to make us stronger, right? But any of the group want to share a little bit more? I'm sure I missed, and we had a lot of, sure I missed something, but if anyone wants to share that, please do as well. So, okay. So I think that what I've seen, at least from our conversation today, and we can go around and just say sort of key takeaways for everybody. It's just the world is shifting, everyone's shifting personally as well. And that there's a lot of hope and there's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel somewhere, even in any day. And I think that for me, as the team knows, I look to the stars and the planets because there's fascinating stuff happening this year as well around movements, which may be interesting for what's happening on the planets. But, yeah. All right. So any takeaways from anyone? We'll just maybe go around and just randomly just share out what this meant for you and what you got out of this today.
So I was wondering, I know that during our breakout session, I was with Nana and Chidi had shared her experiences with leadership and policy and her interests in those fields, and was reflecting on kind of like the absence of mass movements within the African continent, as we see perhaps in the US or historically with our independence movements, whatever it may be, right? And I was just thinking about the context of Mali with the government being overthrown, but also what we're seeing with the solidarity with the movement for Black lives within the African continent. And oftentimes I think because we're in the diaspora, because we're in our specific geographic locations, we're very in tune with what's happening in our local area and the issues that are affecting Black people and the Black experience wherever we are. And so I'm really interested and eager to learn about how you all connect with the context back home and what's happening on the ground and what some of the concerns are of our brothers and sisters back home. Because usually, we stay in touch with our friends, with our family, but it's difficult to really understand how we want to move forward as Black people globally and have a strategy and an agenda that is global and transnational and Pan-African.
Well, that's such an important point that requires another 3-hour session. But one of the things that I think has become clear to me, and it's what makes it difficult sometimes to have conversations where we all come from, is that the feeling of being Black is more acute when you are outside of the continent than when you're in. And we do need Pan-Africanist strategies, but Pan-Africanism, when you're outside the continent, it is much easier for it to be a pan-Blackness than it is when you're inside the continent, when, in a sense, you are negotiating that. How should I say it? When you are outside the continent, it is your Blackness that marks you out somehow strategically as different. And that can give a solidarity, which sometimes is facile, sometimes it's real, but it's much easier to call upon than the notion of, Blackness reads different. Blackness sometimes doesn't read, so what, you're Black, right? And so that means that a Pan-Africanist sensibility needs to be much more conscious and strategic and radical from inside the continent than it does from outside the continent, when what it can just sometimes be a matter of survival. And am I my brother's keeper? Yes, because this policeman who's standing on his neck might come and stand on mine. So the histories are parallel but different. Are parallel but different.
Yeah. Yeah, the contexts are different. Yeah. Any other thoughts around the virtual house?
And I think that conversation about Pan-Africanism versus Pan-Blackness, it's really playing out, especially in this election in the US with Kamala Harris and people, you know, debating her. I don't know if people are familiar with this, but there's this movement called the ADOS movement, the African descendants of American descendants of slaves, and they're really, you know, pushing this idea that you know, because she is the daughter of immigrants, the fact of her, they contest the fact of her Americanness and situate that within like her Black identity. So it's
they did the same to Barack Obama.
Yes.
Let us never forget. They did the same with Barack Obama. Barack Obama wasn't Black enough for a whole bunch of folk.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's a question whether she is as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. Don't get me off on that.
Mhm.
So yes, I mean, if Barack Obama and Kamala Harris are not Black enough, then what in the world have people like myself spent 40 years of our lives doing?
Right. Right.
That's really interesting, Auntie Abby. And I'm also wondering, like, this emphasis on the legitimacy of your heritage or origins completely decenters the attention from the structural issues, right? And the structural demands for change, because we cannot be focused on even just the idea of, you know, Democrats being the good people, the good cops. There are no good cops. Democracy is not necessarily, like, it's not upheld in the US. There is no democracy, you know? So what we're able to like focus on is also determined by these conversations that dominate this mainstream media, right?
Yeah.
But it's not where our attention needs to be as Africans, as Black people, as just people of the world.
Yeah. You know, it's we are Black enough when they need us, and when they want. But I wonder whether Amadou Diallo was Black enough.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a conversation we need to have. And I think it also is something for the next generation, right? And some of my discussion with my cousin this weekend was the girls they're growing up here, they were born here. Are they even, you know, are they African? Are they American? Are they Ghanaian American? Are they what? It's like this whole big sort of discussion that I think that as us, we need to have a conversation of how do we support that next generation as well?
How do we raise
how do we raise our children, right? It's been a confusing discussion.
And that's why the symbolism of Wakanda and what Chadwick embodied, you know, is so
poignant.
Critical. You know, he was that binding, you know, agent across the diaspora. So I think that's what's like.
The identity conflict is definitely a real one for those of us that are like, I mean, like I was born in Nigeria, but I left when I was 8. So, you know, if that conflict of, you know, back home, I'm not Nigerian enough. In America, I'm, you know, I could pass, but once you find out my name, then it's like, oh no, she's definitely not from here.
Where are you really from?
Right,
yeah,
right.
it's like, oh, it's like, are you, so for me, I had to, I had to realize that I had to deal with that conflict, myself, and I had to be bold and confident in saying, you know what, I am Nigerian. Like, nobody else can define to me what it means to be Nigerian enough. If that is what I am, and that is what I say that I am, that is what I am. And it's interesting because I've had that conversation. Somebody's like, oh, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Nigeria. And they're like, oh, but I mean, like, in the United States, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Nigeria, but I live in California. And they're like, oh, but I mean, like, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Nigeria, And it was just like a very odd conversation because I'm like, I'm that, and I had to just stand in that confidence that, I can decide for myself what I want my identity to lie in. But it is a big conflict, and it took me several years. Like, I'm talking like most of my time to get to that point. So I think that would be a great conversation to have.
Yeah, so I think, so that's great. I mean, so I think that I would love to have this conversation longer to give us more time. I know we're run out of time today, but it's a critical discussion to have, especially as we have the Black Lives Matter movements in the US and just what may be happening on the continent, how everyone's reacting to that. I think it's another discussion we do definitely need to put on the table. So with that said, I just want to thank, and make sure we put a note down for that. I know that we have a few more AfriWomen events coming up this year.
No, quick question. So I'm wondering if for this, I mean, I think with everything we've said, perhaps, I don't know if we want to do this like informal gathering, like maybe a monthly thingy, it doesn't have to be like 3 months or, I think the more we can, because there's just so much to talk about, like case in point today, like we didn't even get to some of the other things we want to talk about, and then more things are coming. And so it may be, if we can decide, we can agree that like a monthly, no agenda-less check-in, but agenda-less, but with important
topics that are important to us. Yes, we can.
And just briefly on, one of the things that Auntie BC, who is one of the founders for AWDF, always says is, one time she said that and it stuck with me. Like, how sometimes we introduce ourselves and we say, I am originally from Ghana. I stopped saying originally. I am from Ghana, period. And no originally or no nothing on there. That was something that she challenged me on when she explained it. So I stopped telling people I'm originally from Ghana. I am Ghanaian, period.
Thank you. Thank you. So yes, I think we will structure something where we can just gather every month. Whoever can have time, come in, because I think these discussions need to be had. And we also need to just be there for each other as well in our virtual house, I would call it.
And bring more people in.
And bring more people, especially different gender. I mean, we want to have the intergenerational conversation because that definitely came up as we talked. And that's something that AWDF USA is about as well. So with that said, I just want to thank everybody for your time and your gracious sort of acceptance of our invitation, and just keep well, stay safe, and just be well, and have a great rest of your Saturday, if you still have a Saturday left, for those of you in Kenya. I know you're straight to bed for some of you, but thank you so much, and we'll be in touch.
Until next time.
Until next
Bye,
time.
ladies.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good to see ya.
Bye.
Bye.